Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk of WilksWorld.com, and I am so incredibly grateful that you are taking the time to join me for another powerful DTH episode. Friends, at the D-Rate the Hate podcast, it's all about bettering the world one attitude at a time. See, we did not create the hate, but with your help, we can derate the hate. That all starts with gratitude and personal accountability. We cannot control everything that happens to us in life, but we can control how we react to it. How we act, how we react, no matter what happens to us, how we react to it makes the difference. Friends, there is only one good thing about a bad attitude, and that is that we have the ability as individuals to change it. Here on the DTH podcast, we strive to bring you great guests and provide tools to do just that. Please be sure to share it with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Ratings and feedback are always greatly appreciated. And with that, let's get to this week's episode. Friends, as we round out the year 2023, I am going to be taking some much needed time off. After 3.5 years of doing the DTH podcast, I have to catch up on some other projects and spend some much needed time with my family. In doing so, I've asked some of my incredible former guests to step in and do some guest hosting for me. There's probably going to be some best of episodes. I may step in here and there to do some special projects, but for the most part, for the remainder of 2023, I just ask you to keep tuning in, checking out some of the best of episodes, checking out some of the incredible guest hosts that I have lined up for you, and this week is no exception. Now, this week, I have my friend, Jeff Schoep, the former head of the National Socialist Movement, who you may remember from a few of the DTH episodes that he's been on with me. He has really become one of the leading figures in the de-radicalization movement for white supremacists and neo-Nazis and the like. Now, he has asked another former NSM member, Henry Paniccia, who is the head of the Rods and Axe Project, another de-radicalization project, to join him for a great conversation. You're not going to want to miss it, my friends. I'll leave it to them. And with that, here we go.
Hi, I'm Jeff Schoep, and I'm filling in for Wilk here on D-Rate the Hate. My guest today is Henry from Florida. Henry, I don't want to butcher your last name, so if you could tell everybody your last name, I'd appreciate it.
Paniccia.
Well, welcome to the show, Henry, and we're honored to have you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Can you tell us a little bit? I know you have a really interesting project that you're in the process of working on, and you released some episodes. Can you tell the listening audience a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah. I released a project I call Rods and the Axe Conversations, and basically what it is me kind of going through my former beliefs as a neo-Nazi. I was involved in that life from 14 years old until 21. I was in the NSM, which is how you and I know each other. And I came up with this idea back in 2021 from a therapeutic practice that I have where I kind of journal out a conversation with myself. You know, it sounds kind of weird when you say it out loud, but it's actually really effective. It allows you to kind of see things from a lot of different angles. So I came up with the idea to do it for my neo-Nazi past, and it started to kind of take form, and I've been thinking about doing something with it in a while. It's kind of sitting in the back of my head, almost like a volunteer type thing I wanted to do. And, we had spoken a little bit, so I decided to put these videos together. And what they are is I sit on one side of the table as I am today, out of the life and with changed set of views. And then I sit on the other side of the table as I was at 19, which was 2 years before I left the movement behind. And I just kind of, at times it might seem like an interrogation. At other times I'm just sort of interviewing my younger self about what was it that I believed? Why did I believe it? Where did the beliefs come from? What was the upbringing? What were the circumstances at the time? Just trying to give a full scope of what it is that makes somebody who gets involved into that world, especially at such a young age. What are the sort of ingredients, and then what keeps you there once you're there?
I think it's fascinating what you're doing, and I think it's a really powerful and unique way of looking at things, because that idea of sitting across from yourself a lot of us, reflect back on our lives and things that we've done, and we go, man, boy, was that stupid, or I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I could have done this better or that better, and this is an actual project that the public can look at and see somebody actually doing that, saying, well, how did you view what this incident in your life happened, and going through that. So I think it's really fascinating, and I think I would highly encourage people to check it out. I think it's a unique idea, and it's something that a lot of people think about, but they've never gone through it. So this shows it. These videos show it in real time, and I think it's incredibly important. So when you look back at the project and the ideas in the belief systems you had and all that, because at Derate the Hate here, we're all about dialogue and fostering conversations, because that's just something that we don't see a lot of in today's society with the polarization. So how has it been helpful to you too in your own journey to look back and reflect across some of those memories, and if so, or if not, how does that feel?
It felt good to do it. I do want to make a side note here that these videos are extremely offensive. I act in these videos as if I was still a neo-Nazi, so I talk like a neo-Nazi. You're going to hear slurs, you're going to hear old ideas that might seem alarming or whatever, but you're getting a very real, authentic view with someone who was involved in that life. And I don't hold anything back, and all of it is not without purpose. But just keep that in mind before you watch these. They're definitely 18 plus, viewer discretion advised. You will hear every slur you can imagine, and then some, as well as ideas. As for looking back on it, though, it's funny. A couple people have asked me that, like, what was it like to kind of look back on this like this? It happened so long ago, and I'm a pretty introspective person. So at this point, the only thing that I was really doing was putting it down on paper in kind of one condensed form. Like I said, because I use this as a therapeutic practice, it's not that I've never looked at this in this way before, and with other things that I've done in my life, and writing projects like that I've done. So for me to go through it again, it wasn't really like I figured anything else out. It wasn't like I really came to any new revelations. I think, and then part of that process is because for the past for a while now, I've been in therapy, and I've worked on myself and done all that. So it's kind of like the work was already done. I was just writing it out with this one scenario that I've experienced.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So then your intention is more to help the public, or is it to help people that might be struggling through things like that, or what is the purpose, or who is the target audience? Who do you hope to reach with these videos?
So the purpose of this is quite a few. One, there is so much misinformation out there about who these people actually are and what it is that they believe. I remember a couple of years ago, this woman I had gone on a couple of dates with. I had told her, and I was always very upfront with it in my personal life, with people who were coming in close anyway, dates and stuff like that. And she didn't like it, which is the pretty common response. And at one point we're talking about it, and I was trying to explain to her that, a lot of the ideas of white superiority, they come from a place of insecurity. It's not from a place of feeling superior. It's basic bully psychology. I feel less than you, so I'm going to try to tear you down so that I can be higher than you. That's really how I look at a lot of the views and a lot of the people who are in that movement. And even then, if you look at it just strictly from a logical standpoint, if you're gearing up for a race war and you're worried about a race war, it's because you feel threatened by losing. So in that, you recognize in and of yourself that you're being insecure about the outcome. You're insecure about your position socially, in America at least. So that was part of the reason, was just to clear up some of the misinformation out there, and then also understand that. I remember hearing a statistic back when I was in the movement. I forgot what podcast it was on, but bumblebees were more dangerous than neo-Nazis. Like in the actual numbers of, I know. And when I heard this, I got offended too. I was like, shut up. You know what I mean? But when you look at it in America, he's like, crime statistics, more people die each year from bumblebee attacks than they do from neo-Nazis. And now looking back on it, like he's absolutely right. Most of it is, you hear about the Timothy McVeigh stories and the Dylan, whatever his name is, not important, but you hear about those stories, and it's like that's such a rare thing. Although I do feel like the potential is there for that to become more prevalent. So again, information, getting the right information out there, and then for target audience, really, I want to connect with people who are still in the movement. People, and as well as people who have left the movement behind. To be honest with you, I don't really care so much if the general public sees this because I don't expect them to understand it. And, I guess the last thing I'll say on this is that this was also sort of an attack on the idea of cancel culture and wokeness. Cancel culture shuts down the conversations with these people and it segregates them from society. And that does nothing more than make them feel more isolated. And now they have to go more into the movement. So instead of, I'm not saying that, I would expect people to sing hands and kumbaya, Nazis, but at the same time, when you completely reject them from society, you don't give them the opportunity to turn their life around and redeem themselves in whatever way they need to.
Beautifully stated. I'm really glad you covered that because that's something I've been thinking a lot about as well. Having come from that background as well and going through that life and processing old memories and things, I think back about some of the mistakes that I've made and even going way back into teenage years and things like that. I think about I got doxxed back when I was about 19 or 20 years old when I was using a fake name at the time, and it caused all kinds of problems for my family. And at the time, I was struggling with should I stay on the course I was on as a musician, or should I go into the movement? And after I got doxxed and all that sort of thing happened, I got more isolated. I quit the band. I didn't want nothing to do with music anymore. I was 100% dedicated into the movement. It just pushed me further into it. So having those conversations and with our shared backgrounds and stuff like that, I mean, there's so much that can be said about that conversation. And I know for me, it was having conversations with those that I vilified that helped me get out. Maybe if you're willing to share a little bit about what it was that helped you leave that life.
So it was a series of things. The first thing that kind of happened that I guess was, I'd say, my part one of getting out was also when I was 19. I went to a cross burning, and it was at one of the nationals. I forgot which one it was, but you and I were definitely there. And I remember hearing the Grand Wizard talk, and at the time, I was one of the people who I was completely against the Klan. I didn't want any association with them. So hearing the Grand Wizard talk at this cross burning, it's like you're kind of pumped up and you're fired up for it. And then hearing all the things that he was saying and just kind of looking around and hearing, this drunk guy going off and these people just look sloppy and no one's there really seemed to like have their shit together. So that was kind of the first time where I ever looked around and was like, is this really what I want? Is this the lifestyle and the people that I really want to have in my life? About a year later in Detroit, I was working, and outside of a club on a night off, this Black woman came and sat down next to me on a park bench where I was at, and we just started talking. And then she ended up asking me completely randomly if I had, if I was a skinhead. Now, I had never in my life denied it. I didn't care who it was. I think the only person that ever said I wasn't to was like my grandma. But outside of that, I was who I was, and I had fear of kind of like, well, why would I deny something that you're proud of? And eventually I realized I wasn't proud of it.
So it took that conversation to kind of snap you out of it is how that worked then?
Yeah, I mean, it took about a year for me to like leave the movement behind. It was, it's not like it was a quick process, but yeah, it definitely happened. That was kind of like the last thing that I look at is that's kind of what got me out.
So it's not a snap of a finger decision. You don't just change your life with a snap of a finger?
No, I'm sorry, guys. American History Act lied to you. You don't have an hour conversation and then leave behind an entire lifestyle.
It's tough. And I wanted to, and you had mentioned about dating when you were in the movement too, and that was something I was curious to ask you about, because I can share. Whenever I was dating, it was if the girl wasn't involved in the movement, I didn't tell her until quite a bit later. And it was always like, okay, I really like this one. I need to have that conversation and go sit down somewhere, usually in public somewhere, and say, well, I really had to tell you something. And it just, the anxiety that caused, it was crazy. It was really, really tough. And I dreaded those conversations. And I was curious if that's how it worked for you, or how challenges that you had in that, as far as that goes.
Well, when I was 19, I don't mention it, and I looking back, it was this specific reason I didn't mention it in part two. But when I was 19, I was seeing another girl in the movement for about a year, and she wasn't in the NSM, but she was a part of the movement. And um, when I was involved in it, it was you either knew and you were okay with it, or you knew and you know you weren't. And if they weren't, then okay. But most of the time when I was involved with it, if they knew, they either kind of brushed it off like I didn't just hear that, or they would like stop talking to me because of it. I can say afterwards, if there's anything about me that has ever got me next more, it's telling people that I used to be involved. Because before, if I really liked someone before it got to a point where it was any kind of serious, I would bring that up because I think that they have a right to know. And yeah, I can't tell you the number of times I've had women date for a week, 2 weeks, and then you tell them that, and you never see them again.
Yeah, I had it happen once or twice, but usually it was I waited on purpose.
Yeah, smart man.
Like, well, okay, I don't know that person, I know this person, and it was difficult. But I think the reason I'm asking this, because I think it proves the importance of the power of conversations, the power of dialogue, the power of change, and that everyone evolves in time and things like that. We're not like with your project, the person you are today that's interviewing the old Henry, it's two different people completely. I see it. I mean, I knew you back then. I knew you now. So it's fascinating in that sense. And if you would have ever said, we would be here having this conversation today, I know I would have said, you're nuts. You don't know what you're talking about.
Definitely. It was, towards the end of it, man, even when I got out, I remember when I left the NSM behind, and when I said in my head I was done with it, I was like, well, I don't know, am I really done with it? And it took a couple of years, to be honest, to be like, I was actually not supportive of it anymore. And it took me by surprise. I think I saw something online years ago, and it might have been the Unite the Right, and seeing that kind of, like, it angered me and pissed me off. So I think that was probably one of the first times I could have looked at it and been like, okay, I'm actually not there anymore, because this is upsetting me more than I'm like looking at this and being like, well, they kind of got a point here and there. So it takes time. It took time for me to not just get out, but change the views that surrounded it as well.
Right. Yeah. Disengaging is one thing, but getting de-radicalized and letting go of a lot of that, those old hatreds and things like that, can be incredibly difficult. What would you say was the hardest thing, or the last thing that you had to let go of as far as changing?
Probably anti-Semitism was, I think, for me, I think part of the reason why that was the hardest thing for me to let go of is because that was the thing I didn't really fully understand until maybe a year or two, until I got out of the movement. When I was younger and a teenager, I didn't understand the anti-Semitism. I would say around 1920, it started to make sense to me. And then it was kind of like, when you're in that mindset, it's like everything comes into place, because you're like, oh, I get it now. It's the Jews. And then to get out so quickly after that, I think I still had that prejudice for a couple of years, and it took some while to get rid of that. Is on top of that, having prejudice towards Muslim groups as well.
Right. So did you have any interactions with those communities, or would it just take a matter of processing it on your own? Or
I think it was more so processing it on my own. I've actually been meaning to go into a mosque because and even then, a couple of years ago, I lived with a woman from Kuwait for a while, and she was one of the sweetest women I've ever met in my life. So it's, obviously you meet really gracious, wonderful people from every culture. And seeing that and seeing with her kind of showed me that their culture is, while it's foreign to me, it's not something that I need to have any type of prejudice against. So she helped with that, but I would say that it was kind of already processed by that point, and that was maybe around 26, 27. So.
Right. Yeah, it does take time, but it sure is interesting when you see, because in that mindset that we used to have when we were in the movement, it was like all people of this race are like this, all people of that, everybody was placed into a box, and the um reflecting back on that now, when we look at humanity, it's just such a diverse curtain of people and that come from all these different backgrounds and things like that. And there's bad people in all cultures and religions, and there's good people in all cultures and religions. You can't chuck it into a box and say it's all this way. And people do that and people do that with the extremist movement and neo-Nazi movement as well, and say, oh, these people are this way, they're all that way. And I think that's why I like your project so much, because it kind of delves into some of those issues and those thoughts, and shows like this is a human being that you're sitting across from, and that human being is capable of change, and they might be lost, they might be misdirected, brainwashed, however you want to see it, or cause and effect. A lot of times people get to certain conclusions by the things that happen to them in life.
Yeah, I mean, even, in part 3, I really kind of tackle that when I get into the idea of Zog, the Zionist organizational group. And, in the video, I kind of treat it like my former self is wearing a tinfoil hat. But at the same time, there's certain things that people need to understand. You have to break this part before you can get to this part. So before you can get to getting them to change their views, they need to at least be open to the possibility that the Zionist organizational group isn't real. They need to at least be open to that. And that's why in the video I say, that's such a cop-out. It's not good in arguments when you can't be wrong. And the point that I was making was, you've met white people who were shitty too. So if you've met white people who are bad, what difference does it make that they're white? And then my younger self responds, oh, well, they're swayed by Zog. And it's like, there's just one layer upon another that you have to get through before you can get to really the root problem, which also, and I know a lot of people may look at this a little bit differently, especially people like us who have been involved in it. I don't know if I necessarily would say that it's a problem of hatred as much as it is a problem of indifference towards humanity. And hatred is something when you have something personal against someone or the group of people. I don't know if that ever personally applied to me. For me, it was more so I didn't value human life. I didn't value, to me, the people who were our enemies, really, they were obstacles in the way more so than I saw them as human beings. And I think part of the reason why is because we compartmentalize them. So it's not, this is John, an individual black man with his own story and his own background and all that. This is John, who's a black man, and he's a black man like all the other black men and black women, and they're a group of people, and that's who they are. So that was a little bit ramble on that, but yeah.
No, it's good. I was just going to say that's dehumanization then, and
right.
Dehumanizing other people, and instead of not looking at the individual, but saying, well, you're just part of this. You're right. Just this group, that's culture, etc. And that's a tough way to look at the world. So would you say, when you say you didn't value humanity, did you value your own humanity, or how did you feel about yourself during that time?
I felt pretty low with myself. I don't think I recognized it at the time, just how much. But when I was 18, all the, I guess, telltale classic signs of depression are pretty obviously there. Sleeping for 12 hours a day kind of thing. And, no organized, no discipline, no direction in life. So upon just feeling bad about myself and then taking that insecurity and finding a way to project it outwards, not even necessarily towards just people of different races and cultures, but also against women and against, whoever the situation was that I felt beneath. It was like everyone was under attack. I think being in the movement gave me this false sense of security and confidence in myself. When you're young and you're growing up, everyone wants to be the tough guy, wants to be the hard ass. And I think that being involved in that life kind of gave me that false sense of security that I was looking for.
So sort of a sense of belonging and a place to be and a place that provided the so-called answers, for all the problems of the world. Would that be it?
Yeah. I mean, I talk about it in part 3 where you get the rally experience, and you go to this rally experience. I don't remember necessarily, but I think the biggest rally I ever went to with the NSM had maybe 50 or 60 on it. But it's like, okay, 50 or 60 people are getting thousands to come out and try and scream us out and shout us down. So it makes you feel big. You feel like, wow, like I'm really carrying a dangerous message, and it makes you feel bold, and it makes you feel powerful, and it makes you feel, I've heard you talk about it a lot, where you talk about, you feel like you're doing something for a noble cause, and you feel like you're doing that. And the time in my life in the movement where I got that most was when I went to rallies, or when I was doing things with the NSM. We were around 50 plus people that are just like you, and they're on the same team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was important how you broke that down in part 3 as well. And that's something a lot of people that I talk to, they struggle with, is finding something that can fill that void in a lot of ways. Or finding that purpose, having that cause, having that group, that mission, so to speak. I call it a mission anyways, because I always felt like when I first left that I didn't have a mission anymore. Now I have peace building, so I have a new mission. So for you, when you first left, did you feel kind of lost for a while? And how did you process through that? Or did you replace the mission? Did you not need one? Or talk us through that a little bit, if you don't mind.
I think I remember when I was done with it, it was kind of like, okay, what now? Because so much of your life is dictated by that. The people you speak to, the places you go, the way you live, so much of it is revolving around that lifestyle. So it's kind of, when you're done with it, you're like, well, okay, the chains are off now. So it's like, what do you do with the freedom? So I think in my case, I kind of did what I always did. And I think I kind of rebelled a little bit and went a little wild child with drugs and with women, with, everything that probably wasn't productive for my early 20s. But at the same time, I got a different type of useful experience out of that as well. I don't really know if I'd say that I necessarily had a solidified purpose until about 3 years later, when I decided to go to grad school. But all the same, I did make my work a priority at that time. I did make school a priority at that time. I went back to college and majored in history, focusing on post-World War II until today. So it's I just kind of put myself at the front, and my career, and setting myself up for a success as much as I could. And then by my mid-20s, I was in grad school. I had started my company in the music industry, and that's been my focus ever since.
Right. So you did repurpose. You repurposed and focus inward and on success and moving forward, and that's really wonderful, man. I mean, that's you've come a long way, my friend.
Yes, for sure.
It's really good to see. Anything else that we could or that you'd like to share about the projects, about the videos, and what you hope to accomplish, and it may, a good question might be too, aside from that, is what about the people? And I thought about this too when I was watching it, because I think they're great, and they're gonna reach. I believe they'll reach the target demographic, and they'll cause people to think. But then I also thought about, and I tend to overthink things anyways, but I tend to think about, what about those people that are going to turn that on and go, you know what? Yuck. I don't want to hear this. This is terrible. I can't believe this is on. Maybe I'll report it, or, those kind of people. That, I think, it goes to your cancel culture point at the beginning, but I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
One, I don't know at what point in American society we decided that being offended was on the same level as getting jumped, but it's not. So this isn't meant to be pretty. I'm well aware of what I did. I'm not oblivious to it. I'm not blind to the extremely offensive nature that these videos are. I know what I'm doing. At the same time, it's not for the person who's going to get offended by that. And if you choose to watch a video that has all over it extreme racial trigger warning, it's in the description, it's in the title, it's in the video, it's in the subtitles. I could not have been any more clear about what you're getting ready to watch when you click play. So although society seems to have misplaced this root idea of a personal accountability, if you have a phobia of snakes and then you're at a zoo and you walk into the house where they have all the snakes being held, and you know it because there's signs outside and multiple, all this, and you say, I still want to go inside of it, it's on you. So if someone watches this and they get triggered and they get offended to a point where they want to try and shut it down, okay, that's fine. But you can't say that you weren't properly warned. And that's first of all. Second of all, to the people who are going to watch this and get really offended, part of the reason why I am so shocking and alarming in the video, using the language I'd use and using the theories that I had at the time, it's not just for a sense of authenticity. Like, yes, that's important, but it's also because I want, if there are people who aren't involved in the movement, you can watch this, and I want people to see past that. You know, a lot of the time, I know, especially for me, part of the attraction to this was that it was shocking. You wear a swastika on your arm, people, well, you know, you get that effect from people. So, you know, being someone who was into hard rock and heavy metal from a young age, I liked that shocking effect. And then you see it in that world, and you go to those protests, and you come out of this, and it's like, oh my God, there's all of this, and it's a lot. So those people are going to be attracted. My target audience being people who are so involved in the movement, they're going to be attracted to watch a video like this that has such raw detail to it. And to the people who don't, I'm giving you the opportunity to see past the phrases they use and the ideas, and look at the logic and look at the reasoning and look at the person themselves. Get past the slurs, get past the wild ideas, the extremism. Look at what they're saying. And that's something that I do hope that people will get out of it, whether or not they will.
No, I think so. Very well said. And yes, the videos are full of trigger warnings. I mean, there's nobody that can claim that they stumbled upon it by accident and watched the whole thing. If you watch the whole thing, you've already had the warning. So there's that. And you know, I would say for those people too, you know, I mean, give this stuff a chance and look at it. You know, there's a purpose behind it. There's a reason behind it. And even this program that you're on today, I mean, it's all about fostering conversations. It's about dialogue, civil discourse, speaking to people and reaching them where they're at. That's how lives change and move forward. So I think it's incredible. Really thankful that you came on the podcast to share about your project, and I hope people check it out. And again, where can they find that? Your website, YouTube channel, where can people go check it out if they want to see it?
The website, as well as all social media, which I don't know how long social is going to keep this up, let's be honest, but the website, as well as all social media, is rodsandtheaxe.com. So RODSANDTHEAXE.com, or at Rods and the Axe. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. Yeah.
So across social media, that's at
Rods and the Axe, yeah.
Okay, on all the different, or most of the different platforms.
Yes, yeah, as well as the website is just rodsandtheaxe.com.
Okay, so even if they go to your website, they can find all the socials link from there.
Socials, as well as the videos that are uploaded to the website are uploaded to the website. So even if one of my streaming companies that I'm broadcasting this on YouTube, even if they pull my channel, you can still go to the website and see the videos because they're independent of YouTube. Right. And also all of these videos on YouTube have captions. I'm working on getting them on the website, but because it's me talking to me, it can get a little monotone at times. And not that I wanted to turn in from watching it, but you're hearing the same voice go back and forth. So I think the subtitles help a little bit, people to understand what they're watching.
Great. Yep. Fantastic. All right. Again, so that's rodsandtheaxe.com. Check out Henry's videos, check him out on social media, and see what he's talking about, and encourage you to check it out and be open-minded about it. And Henry, anything else in closing that you have?
There's definitely more to come. We got It's a 5-part series. I just released part 4 on Monday. We got part 5 coming after that, and then we'll see what the future holds.
That's fantastic. Thanks for joining us on Derate the Hate. Again, this is Jeff Schoep of Beyond Barriers, filling in for Wilk and Henry Paniccia.
Yep.
Rods and the Axe. Thank you so much, and good night, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Friends, if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. Share it with your friends, share it far and wide. And of course, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe right from our website so you can get the Derate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. So this is Wilk wrapping up for the week, saying get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. If there is something that you would like to share with me, you can catch me on most social media platforms, or you can email me directly, wilk@wilksworld.com. With that, my friends, I am going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week. Take care.